Hello, Stu.
Glenn, how are you?
Oh, my gosh, I'm just fabulous. Just fabulous. I'm actually in a really good mood. Last night we cut the first special that we're doing. It's a first podcast, very different than anything we've done before, in my career. This was a podcast. It'll be one of the first ones on the Torch that launches in January, and it was with amidst, who is this new singer-songwriter, and she is amazing. She's 25 years old, and just really, really humble. She's like, I don't know, I'm 25. She's like, people are asking me, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And she's like, I have no idea. I'm 25 years old. I don't know anything yet. I think I might know a thing or two, but don't ask me. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. Really humble, really fascinating, very funny. And she was up at the ranch yesterday, and she sat down at the piano, and it was like, Jason, you were there, and you said it was like old days of MTV.
Back when MTV was cool, like Stu will remember this, like Unplugged was
really
must-watch TV. Remember Nirvana when they sang All Apologies?
Yeah.
That was like this, but for entire podcast length.
Yeah.
I was like fascinated.
Yeah,
it was great.
Really good. It was really good. Anyway, so let me talk to you a little bit about America First and what America First really means. I have always said that we have to protect our borders and stop letting people in, because if we don't, we're going to end up like California. California is out of money. It's out of control. They can't control their streets. They can't afford their schools. They can't afford their hospitals. And so what happens? California falls apart. Well, California is a very important state. It's like the 8th largest economy in the world. You can't just let that fall apart. But that's what's happening, and they do it by making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, and many of those are because they're not putting Californians first. In this case, they're putting foreigners first. They're putting politicians first. America First doesn't mean you don't like immigrants. America First means let's have some order as they're coming in, because, if it's why the lifeboats on the Titanic, some of them were half empty, because they had to get away from the boat as it sank. Early on, you could have filled the boats, but everybody was like, I don't know if I'm going to, it's unsinkable. I don't know if I'm going to get on it. And so they were launched, and half the boats were empty, or, half empty. And they couldn't go back once everybody was in the water, because they would have been swamped. People would have rocked it and turned the boat over, and then everybody would have died. You have to take care of the lifeboat. We are the world's lifeboat, always have been. When push comes to shove, Americans show up. When nobody's showing up to help feed people, we're the first to show up. We're a lifeboat. You're not going to help anyone who is truly in need if we swamp the lifeboats. But let me explain America First, because you just saw it in action this week with Donald Trump and the way I believe he interprets America First. In 2008, what was America hoping for with Barack Obama? What were we sold in 2008? We were sold hope and change, right? And what was that? We were tired of the endless wars. We were tired of being lied to, because remember, we were lied to about Iraq and, the weapons of mass destruction that Saddam Hussein had, et cetera, et cetera. We were tired of the cabal running everything. And so Barack Obama says, hope and change. I'm going to be transparent. We're going to stop all of these wars and everything else. And then what did we get? He didn't stop the wars. Instead, he started droning people, killing people in drones from the sky. And he just had a kill list. Literally, that's what it was called, a kill list that he would go over. And I think it was Brennan that actually was in charge of that kill list, but that's a different story. Then we also had Clinton and Soros. Hillary Clinton and George Soros, they got together, started Media Matters, and then they were selling us out. They were doing the NGOs that we now know about. They were overthrowing governments at the time. And it was all secret and secret deals and CIA operations and the Arab Spring and Ukraine, the Maidan revolution. That was us. If you've watched any of my specials on Ukraine over the years, you know the whole story. That was us that did that. Okay? Then we flipped the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, and we made it legal to do propaganda on the American people. That thing has to be overturned again. That's not transparency. That's not hope. That's not change. And then it just started getting worse and worse. Edward Snowden comes out. He says the deep state, and the deep state, the NSA, is spying on you. And they're collecting all of your information. And the press, no hope and change there, no transparency there. The press makes him into a monster, and you could still argue whether he did the right thing or not. But the information was critical. And then we find out later that they were changing, the FBI was actually changing documents to get it past our last line of defense on privacy, and that is the FISA courts. So they were lying about it. Clinton was making money with Gazprom and Uranium One. And then we had global warming. And global warming, all that was again about more money and more power. ESG, the Great Reset, the COVID cover-up, the U.S. labs that were involved in this. And Fauci coming out and saying that's a conspiracy theory. And all of the media saying it's a conspiracy theory. Why? Because all of their sources in the government, which we now know were liars, they were telling them, no, that's a conspiracy theory. They cared more about their plan than they did about humans, not just Americans, humans. Now we have the immigration problem on our streets. Now we have crime on our streets. We have crime. And what's happening again? Is there transparency there? Is there hope and change? No, the hope's been taken away from many minorities and youth because you're either going to burn to death in global climate change or the white man's going to keep you down and you're never going to be able to make it. Where's the hope in that? Where's the change in all of this? You can't say that it's, replacement theory. They're trying to replace new voters and bring new voters in and replace us. Okay, can't say that because that's racist. Well, no, I guess you could make it racist if you go back and you look, in in historical use of that. But it's clear now they're even saying it. Over in Europe, they're saying it. The elites are saying it. Or you can call it an invasion, but you can't call it that either. Instead, it's just poor, downtrodden people that all happen to be in their 20s and men that are coming from the Middle East, coming from Marxist countries, coming in with gangs. How is this helping America? Because it's decaying and rotting everything. When Gavin Newsom said this week that it was Donald Trump's fault because back in 2016 he let that immigrant in. Well, yeah, in 2020 he was supposed to leave and he never did. And they were going to go after him, but then Donald Trump lost the election and Joe Biden made it fine. And then Gavin Newsom, the guy can barely speak English. How did he pass his commercial driver's test? How? He didn't recognize over half of the road signs. How did you get a commercial truck driver's license? How? Well, you live in California, which is anything but America or Californians first, okay? It's not even humans first because they're killing people. This guy killed 3 people. There's a story today about, here it is, in Baltimore. Kid has a crime spree in Baltimore. 18 felony arrests. 18. He keeps being released. Why? Because he's 13 years old. spree of armed carjacking, robbery. Do you think if I walked into Maryland and Baltimore and I was caught with a gun, do you think I would be in prison or here behind the microphone today? I would absolutely be in prison. This kid 18 times, but he's 13, so we got to give him a chance. You used your chances. Now he's out again. His punishment, he's got to have an ankle monitor on him. Violent crime spree. How is that helping the people of Baltimore? How? They don't care. Drugs, crime. Doesn't seem like the left seems to care at all. Put Americans first. The gerrymandering. What is that all about? Why? How can the left see what's going on and then make their whole thing, we've got to pack the courts? They're talking to us about how there's a threat to democracy because of fascism. You want to pack the courts. You want to add states. And what was the other thing? Also, they never, ever lose again. That's a dictatorship. That's not democracy. So the whole time this is going on, who is speaking for the average American? Now, so Donald Trump comes in, and that's why he won, because he actually speaks to the average American. Everybody in the press wants to make fun of him. Why? Well, he talks funny. You know, he's like your uncle that's in the bar and just talking to everybody. Yeah. Just like your uncle, just like your dad, just like a friend that you know. He's speaking the language of the average person because he's recognizing, look what's happening in Washington, D.C. He's recognizing that crime on the street is not just about crime, and it's certainly not about putting black people in jail. Who are the ones that are saying there's no problem? The white elites in Washington. The black population, they're the ones who are saying, thank you. Because it's not just crime, it's quality of life. So now, how does this wrap into America First? How does this wrap up into the weekend? I'll show you in 60 seconds. First, let me tell you about our sponsor. It's Cozy Earth. You might not know it to look at me, but I know comfort when I see it. I know. You know, you look at me on the outside, and I'm just this chiseled mountain of a man, but no, I don't sleep on boulders and brush my teeth with pine trees. No, I don't do it. I'm a real softy, and I like comfort. Sheets, Cozy Earth sheets, soft, cool, smooth, the kind of comfort that makes you wonder why you ever settled for anything less. Look, a guy can split firewood all day. He can fix his own truck, but he can still appreciate sheets that feel like they were made for a king. When I say fix his own truck and split firewood, I'm definitely not talking about me. I'm talking probably more about you. You're more of a man. But you still can appreciate great sleeps, because when it comes to sleeping, when it comes to having something that wicks the sweat off of you at night, or even their clothing that keeps you dry during the day and cool, Cozy Earth has it. Go, CozyEarth.com. Use my code Beck. Get 40% off the softest bedding, bathware, and other apparel. It's CozyEarth.com. Promo code Beck. Cozy Earth, built for real life, but made to keep up with yours. 10 seconds, station ID. So yesterday, around this time, I told you that American leadership is back. That was very clear when you saw all the leaders of Europe sitting around, like they were called to the principal's office, sitting around the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. And I told you that the president now is keeping his own counsel. He is counseling with others, but when it comes time, he knows his own mind and he moves forward on things, which is very important in a president. Let me talk to you now about America First. America First, everybody says, oh, we're isolationists. We don't want to get involved. It's everybody else's problem. Keep us out of it. Well, yeah, that is part of it. But Donald Trump also is taking a leadership role, right? Is there any doubt he's taking a leadership role? How is that America First? It's clear. America first does not mean we don't get involved. It means we lead. Yes, we sit down at the table when we can. But what is he doing? He's putting a coalition together where all the other presidents, and this last one included, they would have just given money to Ukraine. They were doing it, bleeding us dry. When you guys in Europe, you're closer to the problem. It's more of a problem for you than it is for us. Why are we footing the bill? Why are we the ones that would have to send our troops in? It's closer to you. Every time we have had a coalition of the willing, it's a bunch of flags, but we're doing all the heavy lifting. France sent 4 soldiers as part of the coalition of the willing. Donald Trump is building a coalition, and he's leading the coalition, but it's not our treasure, and it's not our people that are doing all the work. So that's America first. Take care of the homeland. Take care of our budget, which is another problem that we have to talk about. Take care of our budget. Take care of our streets. Take care of our crime, our schools. Make sure our borders are secure. Pay attention to those things first so we can be very healthy, while at the same time be healthy enough to be able to lead the rest of the world. If anyone thinks that Donald Trump is not engaged in the rest of the world, were you watching anything that happened this weekend? Have you seen him flying all over the world and stopping and making peace in places that haven't had peace forever? He's leading, and he's saying, this is good for America as well. But what we can add is to sit down and talk to you. We can sit down and try to broker the deal. We can be the trusted third party here. That makes America safe. It makes the world safe. It saves lives. And that indeed, I believe, is America first. Take care of your problems at home so we can help others with theirs, but not doing it for them.
Glenn Beck.
All right, let me tell you about our sponsor. It's Lear Capital. I'm going to talk to you hopefully later today about inflation. I'm very worried that inflation is coming. You know, you saw the producer's price index, which means how much does it cost to get the raw materials to make the things that you're going to buy in, a couple of months. And that has gone up, and it's disturbing to see that. And so far, I don't believe that is the tariffs, maybe a little bit of it. I don't think the tariffs have kicked in yet. Enough to know if that is going to be a problem. Home Depot just said, the tariffs, they gone up, and I think we hit our limit on that, and so we are going to have to raise some of the prices. That's inflation, but there's also the underlying problem of all of our spending. It's worse than it's ever been now. Sorry, I love Donald Trump, but the Republicans have got to stop all this spending. Inflation is coming. Protect yourself, please, with Lear Capital. I want you to call 800-957-GOLD, 800-957-GOLD. Get your free $4,200 gold report before it's a history book, because it's coming, and it's coming faster than you think. 800-957-GOLD. Also ask them about $15,000 in free gold or silver with your qualifying purchase. 800-957-GOLD.
Head over to glennbeck.com and subscribe to the free email newsletter. It's glennbeck.com.
And the crime spree just keeps coming. Now we know Bret Baier, Saturday, pulled over in Georgetown. Why? He was talking on his phone, and he wasn't supposed to be on his phone while he was driving, which he pointed out clearly. His Mercedes G-Wagon. That's my wife's car. That's my wife's car. That was more. He was I got a ticket, whatever. Yeah, I probably had some blow on me, but that's my wife's car. That's definitely my wife's car, because it was a white G-Wagon, and I mean, it's clearly a girl's car, Brett. Clearly, I mean, G-Wagon, girl wagon. That's what it is. You take it in, you park it in the same parking spot every day. It's the G spot. You don't need a real big map on this one. It's a chick car, at least in white.
I had so many additional jokes to add on to that. I'm going to stop. But yeah, that was funny. That did seem to be the focus of his statement. I guess he was on the phone and he wasn't supposed to be, so he got a ticket.
Yeah, and that's illegal
polite.
in D.C. Yeah, and good for them pulling over Bret Baier and giving him a ticket. Good. I'm glad to see it. I mean, not that I want to see everybody. You know what I mean. Everybody, if you're breaking the law, you get a ticket, and it's good to see that they that everybody is getting that. They had 56 arrests on Tuesday night. Don't have the number today, but it's probably about another 50, including an illegal MS-13 gang member. Which, by the way, has MSNBC, they're renaming it to MS Now, right?
Yeah.
Have they thought about MS-13? We give you the news headlines 13 times a day. We are MS-13. At least it'd be more accurate, really.
Really, it's pretty close. It's pretty close. That would be,
it really is.
Might be better. Might be actually a better name than MS Now.
Right. So the stats in Washington, D.C., this seems to be working. Robbery now is down 46% versus the previous 7 days. So a week ago, look, the robberies have gone down 46%. ADW, aiding dumb whites. What is ADW?
Assault with a deadly weapon.
Assault. Okay. Down 6%. Carjacking down 83%. Car theft down 21%. Violent crime down 22%. Property crime down 6%. Now, here's what I don't get. After all of those stats, all crimes down 8%. How do you have these huge numbers and then it's all crime is only down 8%?
Yeah, maybe you know what? Maybe people like Bret Baier with this phone is up like 45%, and that's offsetting it.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Of course, I don't know, because I'm sure there's a law in Washington, D.C., you can't hitch your horse to like a lamp post.
Right.
I'm sure that's still on there.
Yeah,
and that's probably gone through the roof.
I was talking to Drew Holden yesterday, writer, and he lives in D.C., and he was talking about the crime problem, and he described a situation near his house where a park was closed, one of their local parks that you could go and take a walk and walk your dog or whatever, and it was closed. Why was it closed? Because several hundred teenagers decided to schedule a quote-unquote fight in the park.
Oh.
So there was a massive brawl that broke out in this park, which meant they had to close the entire park. Now, that's not going to be 200 crimes, right? That's not how that's going to be.
No,
it's probably maybe one or two. However, it totally disrupted the lives of the people who lived around this park. Right?
See, that's what people are missing. Ricky told us that a friend of hers was robbed. Somebody came up, took their wallet. He didn't even report it to the police. He's like, what are they going to do? They're never going to find my wallet. I'm not going to waste my time. So he didn't even report it. I don't know what crime this would be, but I've told you the story last time I was in Washington, D.C. My wife and I are just walking down the street, and a guy on a bike, a big black guy who looked insane, and I think he was seriously disturbed. But he rides his bike around. He's like, today's the day I'm going to kill me a white guy. I'm going to kill me a white man today. And he's pointing at me. And I'm like, well, too bad you don't see just behind me about 20 steps or 2 armed security guys. So give it a whirl, Jack. But I didn't report that.
Right.
And I think that kind of stuff happens to people all the time in Washington, D.C. It's a quality of life thing as well.
You just become used to it, right? Like,
right.
New York is a good example of this. New York's murder rate, by the way, is 1/7 of Washington, D.C., but we did live and work in New York. 1/7. We did live and work in New York for a while, and it becomes part of your life to ignore things that everyone else in the country would never ignore. Right, like
the best example of this, Stu, is you and I on the subway. We were waiting for the subway, and you and I were just talking about something, and we didn't realize we stood there for maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and I think you said, I think the big one's going to win. And I'm like, I have my money on him too. And what we were talking about, we had not discussed it before. We had been sitting there talking to each other, but both of us, while talking, were watching two rats fight over like a hot dog wrapper or something. And it just had begun. And I looked at Stu and I said, we have been here too long.
Yeah.
We got to get out. When that's just normal, we've got to get out.
Yeah. And I think that is actually part of this. If you want to give a little bit of a break to the crazy people who are defending Washington, D.C. as this bizarre Disneyland, you almost start to delete these terrible experiences from your mind. It's the only way you can deal with them. Like I saw one guy actually post, he's like, I'm sick of all these Republicans and Trump and MAGA people saying, how terrible this city is and how much crime there is. Sure, I've been mugged. And yeah, I had my car broken into, but this is a great city. And it's like, he had just disjointed himself from those experiences as if they didn't happen and as if that's normal for people. Yeah, everyone goes through those things. No, they don't. Like nowhere else I've ever lived did I expect that to occur.
But that's not the same, which rat's going to win thing.
No,
where you just get used to it. That's politics. If you're mugged, if it were reversed, and crime was going out of control, and Donald Trump was not doing anything about it, and this guy gets mugged, he'd be like, of course, what do you expect? The Republicans are in. They don't care about us. They don't care. I mean, that's politics. That's not just getting used to it. Getting used to it is having to step over the homeless person or the drug addict or, walking down the street and seeing, people that are all hunched over because they're on, fentanyl or whatever it is. That's the kind of stuff you kind of get used to and you just don't see it anymore until somebody comes to visit you and then they're like, you live here? And you're like, oh, yeah, you get used to it. You don't get used to being mugged.
No.
That's politics.
No, but you like the person. It was a friend of Ricky's or talking about how the wallet was stolen. Like it's an experience that you remember. I mean, it doesn't necessarily ruin your life. Like it's an inconvenience. It's a terrible thing to go through, but you kind of just like work it into that city experience at some level, which is terrible. Like I have friends who used to always talk about like the city and they appreciated the grit. The grit sucks. Okay, I don't want the grit. The grit is nonsense. It is this like it's a justification for what you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Oh, it's a gritty city. Yeah, getting mugged there's no charm in that. I'm sorry. You want to have a dive bar that you like attending? That's grit, I suppose. Going to a place where you're getting things stolen from you, or you get beaten, or you get some weird fluid thrown at you and you don't know what it was. Like that's the type of stuff that happens in these cities all the time.
I know.
It's awful.
I know. And that is the kind of stuff, I just moved my daughter in. I'm not going to say the town, but I just moved my daughter into a town.
Istanbul.
And it's a college town.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said it.
And it's this really nice, quaint, seemingly crime-free. I mean, it has other problems, but I walked down the street with my wife. We were going to pick something up at a restaurant and bring it back to the apartment as we were all, unboxing. And I'm walking down the street and I said, this is what my childhood was like. This feels like when I was, late 1970s. As I'm coming of age, this is the way the country kind of felt. It was generally safe in areas where I grew up. It was generally safe. It was clean. People respected one another, generally speaking. And I know that, New York City was a hellhole at the same time that I was experiencing that in the West Coast. But you don't see that very often anymore. And you forget until you go to one of these small towns and you're like, are they piping in the sounds of birds and stuff? Because it's like perfect here. No, it's just a small town, that hasn't gone to hell. And you forget about it. You really forget on how great that can be.
And you think about the people who are leading this country all live and work in a place where they are justifying these terrible things occurring. They're not living a life that
because of
so many other Americans are living, and where their towns are sane and they don't have to deal with murder rates 7 times the rate of New York City. So I and this is the trouble with this, of course, in some way, is that Washington has tools that no one else has, right? Like they can call in the federal government to take over their town and bring a bunch of troops in and do all these things that's not an option for a lot of cities. They're stuck with the Mamdanis and the guy in Minnesota who is now taking over their city and going to run it in the ground further. It's going to get much worse.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm thinking back to your story from Washington, D.C., just how prevalent crime was there. That guy that said that.
Because you were there.
I was there. I was standing near your security. Mm-hmm. And you can tell they're so used to that's just the norm. They can intimidate you through
fear.
Crime. No fear.
No fear.
And what cracked me up, maybe you didn't notice this, because we kept watching him. He gave us that crazy eye, went across the street, looked back, and we were still glaring at him as if we're not intimidated by this. And he actually had this look for a couple seconds like, did I not deliver the line correctly? Did it not work? And it stuck out in my mind, because if you refuse to be intimidated by this, like the administration of Donald Trump is now, refuse to be intimidated by this. And that is what they were doing right now, essentially. And their power goes away.
So in Washington, D.C., I don't carry a gun. I'll travel when I'm in a city like that. I travel with somebody who has a badge, and they can carry a gun. And that was the reason why I wasn't really intimidated, other than, go ahead. But my wife was with
the sweet
me.
Silence, the sweet, bring me the sweet relief.
Sweet silence of death. Wouldn't it be bad if you get up to heaven and it is like, great, glad you're here. There's an election next week. You're like, what?
No!
But the average person doesn't have that. Imagine, you're walking your kids to school in the morning and they see that. Did you see that guy? Where was he? That came up and he was homeless and clearly nuts. I mean, that's part of it. It's not just crime. We have really sick people on the streets as well. This guy comes up to a mom pushing a baby carriage just on the street, just walking, minding her own business. And he gets in front of her and blocks her from moving. And he's like, this is my baby. Give her to me. And tries to take. And luckily, living in a town where others see what's going on and race to the woman's defense. I don't know if that would have happened in New York City. I don't know if that would have happened in New York, or Washington, D.C. You don't dismiss the quality of life. And I'm really anxious to see what happens in 30 days, because in 30 days, Trump loses the ability to do this without Congress acting. And I'm anxious to see what happens if he doesn't get that ability and it goes back to the way it was. I think the people in Washington, D.C. are going to be really pissed at the Democrats. All right, back in just a minute. Let me tell you about Z Factor. A lot of time when people can't sleep, they just tend to shrug it off and say, it's fine, I'll sleep when I'm dead. It used to be my motto. But you really don't sleep when you're dead, do you? No, you're too busy campaigning on those politics from heaven. The whole horror movie starts with somebody that has spent too many nights staring at a ceiling and thinking, I'm just going to tough it out. Your brain gets mulched. I mean, it just becomes you can't file the things away. Your brain, while you're working, files things away quickly, temporarily, until you sleep, and then it cleans up the mess from the day. But if you're not sleeping, you don't get that. And so it just makes it worse and worse and worse and worse. Thankfully, Z Factor is there. It exists to stop that apocalypse before it even starts. It's a sleep supplement made from the makers of Relief Factor. It is a formula that will give you the rest you need night after night. When you sleep well, you wake up refreshed. So sleep well. First-time Z-Factor buyers, you're going to get 46% savings. It's $19.95 for a 30-day supply. Go to relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. 1-800-4-RELIEF. Call them now. It's relieffactor.com.
You want the truth unfiltered? Pull up a chair, my friend. You're in the right place. This is Glenn Beck.
We were just talking about crime and all the problems, and there's a certain kind of crime that you don't see coming. Nobody in a ski mask, no broken glass on the floor, no sirens in the night. And we're talking about just a quiet transaction buried in a courthouse record of a government database, and suddenly someone else's name is on your deed. And the worst part, you probably don't even know until it's too late. Imagine the feeling when the bank calls and they're going to say, "Hey, you're behind on the loan, that you never took out." That's not paranoia. That's what happens when your home's title is stolen. The truth is, your whole house is really just as safe as the piece of paper that it proves that it's yours. And in today's world, that paper lives online, exposed to cyber criminals who know how to exploit a system that's weak. Frankly, it's this is an invisible crime. It's silent. It's devastating, and that's why Home Title Lock exists, to stop this. They stand guard over the most important documents that you own. They watch the digital records and flag the suspicious activity. Make sure that the nightmare of losing your home on paper never becomes reality, because it's one thing to protect your house from someone breaking in. It's another to entirely protect it from someone breaking in on paper. And with AI, this is just getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. AI is changing the world. Do not let it change the name on your home's title. Go to HomeTitleLock.com right now and use the promo code BLAZE. There's a certain kind of theft that you don't see coming, so make sure you protect yourself with Home Title Lock.
Well, the end of democracy is here. Can we play cut one, please? It's here. The end.
Way to preserve redistricting in the future is to make sure that that doesn't become the case. If California is, if a year from now, or a month from now, or if a week from now, if your cousin is kidnapped off the street, if UCLA closes down, if we announce that there won't be an election, if the census that we're relying on for the commission's next stab at redistricting doesn't include 1.5 million Californians in it, if we have no democracy left and we look back and said, if only we could have done something. Well, the nice thing about this is that we are in a time machine. We can do something.
Yeah, it's called redistricting. That's crazy. If you're kidnapped, it's because we didn't count the illegals as Californians. What?